Pressed flower candles. Collect and press various flowers like roses, lavender, or wildflowers. Once dried, carefully arrange and adhere them to the outside of a plain pillar candle using a low-heat craft iron or a clear, non-flammable adhesive. Scented soy wax candles with dried petals. Make your own soy wax candles and add floral essential oils, for example, rose, jasmine, or ylang-ylang for fragrance. Before the wax fully sets, sprinkle dried flower petals on top for a beautiful rustic look. Floral mason jar candles. Pour your wax into a small mason jar. Before pouring, you can glue or press small, flat dried flowers onto the inside of the glass. The flowers will be visible through the glass once the candle is finished.
Floating floral candles. This project is about making small, decorative candles that can float in water. The process is simple. You create a small, disc-shaped candle, and while the wax is still soft, you press a dried flower or a few petals into the top surface. The key is to make sure the candle is flat and relatively lightweight so it can float. Once cooled and hardened, these candles can be placed in a bowl of water, like a glass bowl or a decorative dish, to create a beautiful and serene centerpiece. The combination of the flickering flame and the floating floral design makes for a stunning visual effect. Floral wax melts. This is an alternative to traditional candles and is a great option for those who want to fragrance a room without an open flame. Instead of a full candle, you'll be making small scented pieces of wax. The process involves melting wax, adding fragrance oil, and then pouring the mixture into small silicone molds, such as flower or heart shapes. Before the wax completely cools, you can sprinkle dried petals into the liquid wax. Once hardened, these wax melts can be placed in an electric wax warmer, where the heat will melt the wax and release the fragrance into the room. Terrarium candles. This project is for a more complex and artistic candle. It involves creating a layered, miniature scene inside a clear glass container. You start by adding a base layer of sand or small stones. Then you pour a small amount of melted wax on top of the base. You then carefully arrange small dried flowers or delicate sprigs, such as baby's breath, against the inside of the glass. You then carefully arrange small dried flowers or delicate sprigs, such as baby's breath, against the inside of the glass. The final step is to carefully pour the remaining melted wax into the container to secure the entire scene. The result is a beautiful self-contained candle that looks like a miniature garden or terrarium.
Botanical pillar candles. This method involves decorating the outside of an existing candle. You take a plain, store-bought pillar candle and use a heat gun or blow dryer to soften the surface of the wax. You then gently press dried flowers and leaves onto the softened surface. The warmth melts the wax just enough for the botanicals to adhere securely. The final product is a single, self-contained candle with the flowers embedded in its sides, potted flower candles. With this method, you create the candle from scratch inside a new container. You use a small terracotta pot as the vessel. Pour melted wax and a wick inside, and let it set. The dried flowers are not embedded in the wax but are arranged around the wick at the top once the candle is fully hardened. This gives the appearance of a small potted plant, with the wick looking like a plant stem and the flowers like a tiny bouquet blooming from the wax soil. In short, a botanical pillar candle is an already made candle you decorate, while a potted flower candle is a new candle you pour into a specific container and decorate on top. Dried flower votive candles concept. This technique involves embedding dried flowers in a clear, solid block of wax. The flowers are placed at the bottom of a glass votive holder, and then clear or translucent melted wax is poured over them. Process. Preparation. You start with a glass votive holder, which is a small cup-like container specifically designed for votive candles. You'll need a wick and melted wax, typically a paraffin or soy blend that hardens to a clear or translucent finish. Placing the flowers. Dried flower petals or small flower heads are carefully arranged at the very bottom of the empty votive holder. The flowers should be fully dried to prevent them from rotting or causing issues with the wax. Pouring the wax. The melted wax is then poured gently into the holder, filling it up and completely covering the flowers. Hardening. As the wax cools and hardens, the flowers become suspended within the solid wax. Since the wax is clear, the flowers remain visible, creating a delicate, almost frozen or preserved floral effect. Aesthetic effect. The result is a candle where the flowers are trapped in the wax, adding a decorative element that is visible from all sides of the glass holder. When the candle is lit, the light from the flame can illuminate the flowers, enhancing their appearance. This method creates a visually striking and unique candle. Floral-infused layered candles. Concept. This method is about creating a candle with distinct layers of wax and using dried flowers as a decorative and aromatic divider between those layers. Process. First layer. You begin by pouring the first layer of colored melted wax into a container. You must allow this layer to cool and harden completely before moving on. Sprinkling the flowers. Once the first layer is solid, you sprinkle a thin, even line of dried flower petals, like lavender buds or rose petals, directly on top of the hardened wax. This creates a visible floral infusion or line. Second layer, you then carefully pour the second layer of a different colored, or even the same colored melted wax on top of the flowers. Repeating, this process can be repeated to create multiple layers, with a line of dried flowers separating each new layer of wax. Aesthetic and aromatic effect. Visual. The dried flowers act as a visible separation between the different colored wax layers, creating a clean, defined line. This technique adds visual interest and a handcrafted feel to the candle. Aromatic. As the candle burns down and the flame reaches the floral-infused layers, the heat can release a subtle aroma from the dried flowers, adding to the sensory experience of the candle. Both methods demonstrate how dried flowers can be used to add texture, color, and fragrance to candles, transforming them from a simple light source into a beautiful, decorative object.